Hey folks, welcome to Tyrdom. So, why did the people of the north make offerings? Why did they throw away seemingly perfect weaponry into lakes, bury silver coins, or even sometimes bury entire treasures? To modern peoples, this can seem very strange. And it can even be deemed as primitive by some people. But I think we have to remember that the world our ancestors lived in was not a static place. It was a place that was very much alive. And this was something that we tend to forget today. Because to the peoples that lived before us, the world itself was a living organism, you could say. And it was not a place of empty matter as we tend to see it today. And to them, the forest itself had a presence, and the seas had powers, not just the crushing powers of the waves, but you could call it an intelligence, if you will. And the land itself had a will of sorts. And the Norse traditions oftentimes talk about the landvættir, which were the spirits of the land. That's exactly how it translates. And in Finnish traditions, there's the concept of väki, which can mean people, folk, or a power of something. And in natural places and beings, the väki was present. And these were different myths, but they shared a common pathway and a basic idea, you can say, that nature was not something you used for your own benefit. It was something you lived with and within. And to understand offerings, we have to understand the concept of the exchange, I think. And offerings was not only about worshipping. And they were more of a exchange, and I think that the very Indo-Europeans that came to Europe a long time ago had a concept of this. And it doesn't really matter which trajectory you follow them. If you go to Southern Europe or Middle Europe or Northern Europe, you will have the same concepts about the offering. And I oftentimes talk about the animistic aspects of paganism, and this is now no different. We know that they made offerings, and they did this in order to get something in return. And the Romans had a phrase for this, which was "duot des," and this means I give so that you may give. So this is a very old concept, right? And exactly the same logic as the Romans had, the Norse had, and the Finns had as well. You made an offering and you asked for something in return. It could be a good harvest, or it could be safe travels, or maybe victory in battle, or plenty of fish in the nets. And the offering cycles created a relationship, you could say, with deities, the land spirits, or the väkis, depending on where you were at the time. And if we look at the archaeology of this, we can see how widespread this actually was. The weapons in lakes and jewelry in bogs is another big one. Animals that were sacrificed at sacrificial places is another one. And these objects were not lost. We're pretty convinced about that. It all seems very deliberate. And I think that people believed that the powers were inherent to the very landscape, and victory had been granted, so something was given back. So this is a very, very old cycle. And you know, if we look at the specifics of the Nordics, we have to understand that the mindset back then was a bit different, because Northern Europe at that particular time was not an easy place to live in. It was a place with very long winters, and it was very dangerous for seafaring, and harvests were, you know, the success of a harvest was all dependent on that summer being okay, at least. And for you who have been here, that's not a guarantee in the Nordics. And storms could easily destroy your ships, and a bad year could basically mean famine for you and everyone in your tribe, basically. So people were constantly reminded that they were not in control, because that was just the harsh reality of things. And they lived inside forces larger than themselves. So offerings, as far as I see it, was an acknowledgement of that fact, that you lived inside powers that were out of your control. And there's a good example of this when it comes to fishing in the Nordics, and or maybe not even the Nordics. Let me know if you know otherwise. But in Swedish, for example, we don't say I took a fish or I caught a fish. We rather say jag fick en fisk, which translates to I got a fish. And that difference might sound small, but if you look at the backstory of it all, it's actually a token of respect that nature gave us the fish. We didn't take the fish from nature. Nature gave us the fish, which is quite an important distinction, I would say. And I think that especially in Finland, this is a big thing still up until this day. But also in Sweden, we don't say that we caught a fish. We got the fish from nature, if that makes sense. And it all comes back to the notion that we do not command the sea. We live in symbiosis with the sea. And if we give the sea something, or the respect, we get something in return. And I know for a fact that when you got the fish in Sweden, but also in Finland until this day, you give back the intestines to the väki, or to nature. And I think there's modern parallels up until this day that we might not think about in our everyday lives. For example, we have, when people survive dangerous altercations or accidents or something like that, they say I was lucky, or maybe I was given another chance. This is also an important thing, an acknowledgement that there are some aspects in life that are outside your control. And I think this is a manifestation of something way, way older than we think. And we easily get blinded by the modernities of life. But if you think about it, the root causes of our actions today, you kind of get an eye-opener, I would say. And there's a deeper meaning here as well, because offerings were not, I would argue anyways, in particular religious acts. They were acts of recognition rather. And it's an important distinction, because I've talked about this before, that people tend to judge each other. That's not how you offer to Odin, blah, blah, blah. I think if you have that mindset, you're missing the big picture here. And that's why I'm talking about this today. And I think that the offering cycles and the animistic way of life is rather recognition that humans are not the masters of the world, even though we tend to think that. It's just blatantly wrong, I would say. We are part of nature. Nature feeds us, and the lands feeds us, and the sea feeds us, and the forests still shelter us today by proxy, by building buildings and things. And if something keeps giving to you, you should give back. You know, the reciprocity that I've mentioned before. So why did the Northerners give offerings? I think that they did not see the world as a empty matter, you know. They saw a world that was very much alive, and they saw a living land and a living sea, a living lake, and a living world all together. And therefore they understood that you could not only take, you also needed to give something back. And that's why I think the offerings were a central piece in the Nordics. Okay, folks, if you watched this far, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and comment if you liked what I do here. And make sure to turn on that notification bell so you get the news when I post new stuff. Okay, folks, have a lovely day. Talk to you later. And make sure to give back. Okay, Tyrdom out. Tyrdom.